You're a little crazy dog. Stop.
And what I have, Kelly, is I have a search warrant.
We have weapons in the house.
You want to tell me where they are?
I've got a 22 under there. Should be able to reach right in and get it.
The tiles on the ceiling. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
I painted it.
He could hear them in their basement using power tools.
Sanding away, sanding, reciprocating saws, skill saws. Like 2, 3 in the morning, you heard them all night.
What happened to Chris? What? What do you mean by downsized? Cut him up.
I think they hacked them up and did to us.
When I realized that I might have ate the dude, I'm like, oh God, like, no.
On October 27th, 2014, Iron River Police Chief Laura Friso was walking to her car when she spotted a distressed woman in the parking lot. The woman, Terry O'Donnell, was visibly upset as she begged to file a missing person report for her friend Chris Regan, who had been out of contact for several days. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Friso immediately called Sergeant Cindy Barrett for support. Their investigation began at Chris's apartment.
This doesn't look like Chris's apartment at all. It's all disheveled. He was always very neat. Everything was always put away.
As Chris was preparing to move to North Carolina for a new job, his apartment reflected the chaos of transition. Packing boxes were scattered across the space, belongings were only partially organized, and the usual clutter of a life in flux was evident.
He takes him out, starts packing. This is his paperwork to accept the position. It's not even sent yet. His calendar shows that he was going to resign on the 14th. He has the 23rd as his last day of work.
Chris was known for his meticulous nature, a true strategist who planned every detail carefully. His sudden disappearance was entirely out of character, raising immediate red flags. When investigators searched his apartment, they found no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle, and nothing to indicate he had left without plans to return.
Something happened. I knew that in my heart, and I knew that in my gut.
After thoroughly examining Chris's apartment, their next lead led them to his car, which had been abandoned for several days.
No, friend of mine.
For a long time.
Christopher's Hyundai Genesis, his vehicle, was there. And that was his baby. He took such good care of it. And so it didn't make sense to me that it was at the park and ride.
That is knee brace? Yep. Does he normally wear the knee brace?
Yep.
Okay.
Chris had recently been in an accident, but what investigators discovered next provided a crucial clue: a Post-it note. This seemingly ordinary piece of paper would become the first key in unraveling the mystery of Chris's disappearance.
A Post-it note.
Christopher always wrote things down on Post-its, and the Post-it note had directions on it. And I told her that wherever those directions went to, that was the last place he was.
As Chief Friso delved deeper into Chris's life, she uncovered that he had a reputation as a ladies' man, often dating multiple women. Her investigation soon revealed a critical detail. The last known location Chris visited before vanishing was the home of one of his girlfriends, 33-year-old Kelly Cochran. Kelly, a relatively new hire at Oldenburg, had actually been recommended by Chris himself. Both newcomers to the town, they seemed to bond over being city folk in a small community. The following day, Sergeant Barrett arrived at Kelly's house to question her about Chris's disappearance. To her surprise, the door was answered by a man, Kelly's husband, Jason Cochran. When Kelly joined the conversation, she made a startling claim. Her husband was completely fine with her relationship with Chris. Jason, however, stood silently in the background, his demeanor tense. When asked about Chris's car and the Post-it note found inside, Kelly's response took an intriguing turn. Speaking in the past tense, she remarked, "Yes, he loved his car." This subtle slip didn't go unnoticed, immediately raising suspicions. Investigators decided to bring both Kelly and Jason in for questioning. While Kelly remained composed, Jason's demeanor was markedly different. Though he mostly stayed quiet, he seemed desperate to justify himself, attempting to portray the role of a grieving husband. Yet his forced expressions and uneasy presence only deepened the investigators' doubts.
I actually was institutionalized a little over a month ago, so
Okay. You know, if I seem like I'm getting wound up, I do see a therapist for it. Lost a close friend, depressed ever since.
Did you think that's what caused all your issues?
It's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, knowing that my marriage is falling apart.
So you were very much aware of what Kelly was doing?
I either had to accept it or to let her go. So I decided that I could at least accept it for a little while and see if it's, you know, what she really wanted was to not be with me, then I was going to let her go.
While Jason sat sobbing, Kelly appeared noticeably more composed, her body language calm and controlled, further emphasizing the stark contrast between their reactions.
Everything you know about Chris?
We actually got pretty close in the last 4 months.
Okay.
Like a best friend.
Did you have an intimate relationship?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Yeah. And obviously your husband knows?
He knows.
He knows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When is the last time you saw Chris?
I would say between the 12th and the 15th was the last time I saw him.
Where did you see him?
I seen him at his apartment, I think.
Was Jason upset about that?
No.
Kelly, should we be looking at Jason?
I don't see why you would.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because husbands get jealous.
I understand that.
Who do you think would have hurt Chris?
I don't think anybody would hurt him. I would like to know what happened as well. That's why I'm willing to be here. I'm a good person.
Though there was no solid evidence of a crime, Chief Frizzo couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It had been 14 days since Chris's disappearance, and the deeper she dug, the more intriguing the case became. Her investigation soon revealed a startling twist. Kelly had been involved with yet another man, Eric Erickson, while also seeing Chris. What made this revelation even more surprising was that Eric worked at the Oldenburg Group, where his supervisor was none other than Chris himself.
Could he have done something to Chris because he was angry and jealous and outraged? So it was important to eliminate him.
Kelly was entangled in a complicated love quadrangle, with Eric now emerging as a key target for Michigan police in their ongoing investigation.
She wanted me to go out with her a couple times, like at night. I think for me it was kind of fun. You know, at first, whatever. I had moved back here and I didn't know anybody, and having somebody give me some attention was, I liked it.
Right.
This too. I still have the full text message.
Messages between Eric and Kelly revealed growing frustration on his part, with tensions escalating just a week before Chris vanished. Investigators couldn't ignore the possibility. Could Eric have been a jealous lover, driven by anger and resentment? Was he the mastermind behind the entire plan?
How would you feel about taking a polygraph test just to prove that you didn't have anything to do with Chris's disappearance?
Yep, I told him I would do that too.
But things took an unexpected turn.
All of a sudden the door goes click, and walks in, the officer, and he goes, "You passed." And I was like, "I did?" So...
After ruling out Eric as a suspect, the detectives redirected their focus to the Cochran family, with Jason now at the center of their suspicions. As the betrayed husband, Jason had a clear motive to harm Chris. However, Kelly complicated the narrative by revealing that she and Jason had already separated. Yet for reasons unknown, they continued to live under the same roof. This unusual arrangement only deepened the investigators' curiosity about what was really going on in the Cochran household.
Kelly, was living a life of a single person. She was constantly running around with different men.
There were times when she came home about 1:30, didn't even tell me where she was at, and I didn't really want to know. I hate to say it.
Do you kind of understand why you're here?
Yeah. I think so. There's somebody that's missing. I'm going to guess that I'm probably the jealous husband.
The detectives also uncovered a trove of text messages from Jason to Kelly, revealing the depth of his anger and frustration over her relationships with other men. In the messages, Jason made it abundantly clear that he did not want her seeing anyone else, and his escalating resentment was evident in every word. Tensions reached a boiling point one day when Jason spotted Kelly's truck parked outside Chris's house. This discovery led to a heated confrontation between Jason and Chris, further fueling suspicions about Jason's potential involvement in Chris's disappearance.
Did he confirm
confront you about the time when he said he was on a walk and he saw your truck parked by Chris's apartment?
He had mentioned it, yeah.
What did he say?
He had seen my truck there.
The tension had reached its breaking point, but the case was about to take an even darker and more twisted turn. On March 16, 2015, detectives finally secured a search warrant for the Cochran house. As they approached the residence, they had no idea they were on the verge of uncovering a series of shocking revelations that would completely upend the investigation.
Hi.
Here's my little crazy dog.
You have 2 dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are they mean?
They're not friendly.
Stop. And what I have, Kelly, is I have a search warrant.
Just one look at the house was enough to send a shiver down their spines. It had an undeniably eerie vibe. However, the detectives had far more pressing concerns on their minds as they prepared to uncover what secrets the house might hold.
Son, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Okay.
Not on us, but we have weapons in the house.
You want to tell me where they are?
I've got a 22 under there. You'll be able to reach right in and get it.
The Cochran household presented an eerie and unsettling atmosphere. Weapons, swords, crossbows, and more were meticulously placed in nearly every corner. Jason Cochran's passion for collecting such deadly items transformed the home into an arsenal. It was impossible to move through the house without encountering something that could be used as a weapon. This chilling realization set the tone for what was to come. During a search of the house, investigators made an unnerving discovery. The doors and door frames were damaged, suggesting signs of a violent altercation. The need for a more detailed investigation became apparent, prompting the involvement of the crime lab. As the investigation deepened, something horrifying came to light. A positive luminol test revealed splatters on the ceiling, consistent with blood. Jason and his wife dismissed the findings, claiming they had recently remodeled and replaced ceiling tiles. However, the investigators weren't convinced. The gruesome evidence pointed to something far more sinister, possibly linked to the disappearance of Chris, a local resident. Before investigators could piece together the puzzle, the Cochrans fled. A neighbor informed the police that the family had loaded up their truck and left town early the next morning. This sudden departure raised alarms, leading investigators to turn to neighbors for further insights. The neighbors shared chilling details about the couple's activities around the time of Chris's disappearance. They recalled hearing the sound of power tools coming from the basement late at night, often as late as 2 or 3 in the morning. These nocturnal renovations only added to the growing list of suspicions. Upon returning to the now deserted house, investigators uncovered a journal written by Jason Cochran titled "Where Monsters Hide." The journal detailed a disturbingly vivid narrative about a hunter stalking prey, describing the thrill coursing through the hunter's body. The chilling parallels to real events hinted at a thinly veiled confession, further implicating the Cochrans. The investigation gained traction when detectives learned that a private investigator had discreetly placed a tracking device on the Cochrans' truck prior to their escape. This device became a crucial piece in unraveling the mystery. The Cochran case remains one of the most chilling investigations the local authorities have undertaken. From the weapon-laden home to the eerie journal and the suspicious activities in the dead of night, each revelation painted a darker picture of the couple. While the Cochrans remain at large, the investigators' determination ensures that justice will be pursued relentlessly. The Cochrans' sudden disappearance didn't deter investigators. Instead, it intensified their resolve. Using a GPS tracker discreetly placed under their truck, law enforcement traced the couple's movements from Michigan's Upper Peninsula to Robert, Indiana, where Kelly Cochran's parents resided. This discovery, however, presented a new challenge: jurisdictional boundaries. The Michigan detectives could not directly act in Indiana, but they were prepared for this hurdle. They swiftly reached out to the sheriff's department in Indiana, urging them to assist in the investigation. The request was straightforward but critical: collect DNA samples from Jason and Kelly Cochran. By this stage, investigators had amassed enough evidence to strongly suspect criminal activity. The DNA samples could be the key to confirming their worst fears and solidifying the case against the couple. The coordinated effort between state jurisdictions highlighted the determination of law enforcement to ensure that the Cochrans could not evade justice. Each step brought them closer to uncovering the full extent of the sinister activities hidden within the Cochran.
We told Jason that we had a search warrant for his DNA and we needed to transport him to the Hobart Police Department. He did not say a word the entire time. He was just sitting in the back of the car, shaking and sweating and like wringing his hands together.
Acting swiftly and without hesitation, law enforcement brought Jason and Kelly Cochran into the Robert, Indiana Police Station. The walls of justice were closing in on the pair, and it seemed the investigation was finally under control. Detectives believed they were on the verge of uncovering the truth about the dark secrets surrounding the Cochrans. However, just when it appeared that everything was falling into place, the unexpected happened. Jason Cochran, who had remained stoic throughout the ordeal, was hit with a revelation that would shake him to his core. What exactly this shock entailed was unclear to the officers at first, but its impact on Jason was undeniable. This surprising twist left investigators questioning how much more there was to uncover in this chilling case. As the interrogation room filled with tension, it became clear that the Cochran's story was far from over.
Hello. Hi.
You doing good?
So you see me in Indiana, you were begging your wife after you cheated on you. You remember telling her, if you ever loved me, you'd act like my wife. It says right in your messages, don't go back to those apartments. You're a married woman. Remember saying that?
Okay.
Do you remember saying that?
I don't really feel like answering any questions, so I feel like you've violated my constitutional rights and I'm a lawyer.
I'll come in and get your DNA.
The disappearance of Chris Reagan led investigators into a harrowing investigation rife with manipulation, deceit, and macabre discoveries. Chief Laura Frizzo, steadfast in her pursuit of justice, unraveled a story that placed Jason and Kelly Cochran at the center of a grim narrative, one marked by betrayal, jealousy, and murder. This twisted tale would ultimately reveal the shocking depths of human darkness, exposing secrets that turned a simple missing person case into one of the most chilling criminal sagas in recent. Chief Laura Frizzo worked diligently to break Jason Cochran during his interrogation, even attempting to frame him as a victim in a bid to gain his trust and cooperation. Despite her efforts, Jason remained unyielding, and the session ended without a breakthrough. In stark contrast, Kelly Cochran appeared unsettlingly calm and composed, as though bracing herself for whatever was to come. Undeterred by their lack of cooperation, Frizzo pushed forward with the investigation, which soon transitioned from a missing persons case into a full-fledged homicide inquiry. Suspicion quickly centered on the Caspian Pit, a site near the Cochran residence that seemed disturbingly well-suited for concealing evidence, or a body. A search of the pit yielded grim findings. Investigators uncovered a burned barrel containing cement blocks that matched those found in the Cochran's home. Subsequent searches of their backyard fire pit revealed even more chilling evidence: a saw blade and fragments of jeans, hinting at the horrifying possibility of dismemberment. These discoveries added a new layer of dread to an already ominous case, strengthening suspicions that Chris Reagan's disappearance had a far darker explanation. February 2016 brought a startling twist to the case when Kelly Cochran made a frantic 911 call, reporting her husband Jason's medical distress. By the time emergency responders arrived, Jason was unresponsive and pronounced dead, with the initial assessment pointing to cardiac arrest. However, Kelly's reaction raised red flags. Her behavior seemed rehearsed, lacking the genuine panic expected from a grieving spouse. Jason's close friend Watt found Kelly's demeanor suspicious and took action. He alerted the FBI, believing Jason's death might be more than a natural occurrence. This tip brought federal agents into the investigation, broadening its scope. A subsequent autopsy revealed critical findings. Jason had petechial hemorrhages in his eyes and other signs consistent with suffocation. These discoveries deepened suspicions that Kelly might have been involved in her husband's death. Detective Jeremy Ogden, now at the helm of the case, began to connect the dots between Jason's demise and the ongoing investigation into Chris Reagan's disappearance. Determined to uncover the truth, Ogden meticulously reconstructed the events surrounding Jason's death, convinced it was the key to unraveling the Cochran's sinister web of secrets. Detective Jeremy Ogden employed strategic, psychological tactics to break Kelly Cochran's composure. One of his most clever moves involved enlisting Jason's friend, Watt, in a deceptive ruse. Watt was instructed to tell Kelly about a letter Jason had allegedly written before his death, a letter implicating her in Chris Reagan's disappearance. This fabricated revelation planted a seed of paranoia, forcing Kelly to question what evidence might already be against her. To amplify the pressure, Ogden and his team devised another bold strategy. Knowing Kelly often visited a specific park, they carved the words "Chris is here" into a tree at the location. The chilling message had the desired effect, leaving Kelly visibly shaken and deeply unsettled. The combination of relentless psychological games and the weight of mounting evidence ultimately pushed Kelly to her breaking point. Overcome with fear and anxiety, she finally confessed that Chris Reagan had been murdered, a moment that marked a pivotal breakthrough in the case. Kelly Cochran's confession was as disturbing as it was revealing. She claimed that Jason, consumed by jealousy after discovering her affair with Chris Reagan, shot Chris in cold blood. Portraying herself as a victim, Kelly insisted she had lived in constant fear of Jason's violent temper. However, as investigators delved deeper, her account took an even darker turn. Kelly admitted that Jason had dismembered Chris's body and disposed of the remains. Yet her story was riddled with inconsistencies, with shifting details that left investigators struggling to separate fact from fabrication. In an effort to validate her claims, Kelly led the team back to the Cochran home, identifying locations where key events allegedly unfolded. But her ever-changing narrative only fueled doubts about her credibility. Each revelation raised new questions, leaving investigators to wonder how much of her confession was the truth, and how much was a carefully crafted attempt to deflect blame. Kelly Cochran's game of evasion came to an abrupt end when she attempted to flee to Kentucky. Unbeknownst to her, investigators had been tracking her movements via GPS. Upon her arrival, law enforcement intercepted and arrested her, bringing her back into custody. Detective Jeremy Ogden, armed with a mountain of evidence, was ready to confront Kelly and dismantle her web of lies. But true to form, Kelly was prepared to stay one step ahead. As Ogden pressed her, she delivered a final bombshell, one that threatened to unravel the case further and plunge it into even darker territory. Kelly's shocking revelation hinted at secrets far deeper and more sinister than investigators had imagined. Her calculated move left detectives grappling with the possibility that they had only begun to scratch the surface of her twisted story. As the case took yet another chilling turn, one thing became clear. Kelly Cochran's dark secrets ran far deeper than anyone had dared to believe.
Things are different now.
Why are they different?
Because I'm here. If I cheated, be my responsibility, regardless if he helped or not.
You took part in the planning of it. You allowed it to occur when you didn't have to allow it to occur.
Her new story? She claimed she'd known all along that Jason would kill Chris that day because they'd made an agreement.
When does that agreement occur?
The wedding night.
And your agreement from the time you were married was that you had the affair. It's your responsibility to kill off that person.
Or he'd kill me.
Or he would kill you. Vice versa.
Right.
The investigation into Chris Reagan's disappearance came to a harrowing conclusion when Kelly Cochran, officially charged with his murder, was escorted from her jail cell to lead authorities to where his body was buried. Officers followed Kelly with a mix of anticipation and dread, hoping for closure in a case that had haunted the small Michigan community. What they found, however, was far beyond their darkest nightmares. Kelly's demeanor during the discovery was unnervingly calm. She guided investigators with chilling precision, pointing out the steps Jason Cochran had taken to dispose of Chris's remains. Even as gruesome evidence came to light, Kelly appeared indifferent, even requesting mundane comforts like pizza and soda. Her lack of remorse added another layer of horror to an already grim case. The discovery of Chris's remains brought a sobering moment for all involved. While it finally answered the question of where he was, it also confirmed the brutal reality of his fate. For Chris's family and loved ones, the recovery of his body offered some relief, but the pain of losing him remained as raw as ever. Kelly Cochran's trial began on February 13, 2017, drawing widespread attention as details of the case unfolded. Despite confessing to her involvement during interrogations, Kelly pleaded not guilty, claiming she was a victim of Jason Cochran's abusive behavior. She painted a picture of a troubled marriage, alleging that Jason had been controlling, jealous, and violent. There were times where he would grab me, push me, shove me, Kelly testified. He became very jealous, very angry. She insisted that her fear of Jason left her unable to resist his actions or intervene when he killed Chris. Yet her claims of victimhood clashed with her history of inconsistent and contradictory statements. Over the course of 3 weeks, nearly 60 witnesses took the stand, delivering damning testimony. Detectives recounted the shifting versions of Kelly's story, which had evolved from vague accounts of Chris's disappearance to detailed descriptions of his murder and dismemberment. Each new version of events eroded her credibility, leaving the jury to question the truth of anything she said. One of the most haunting revelations came from the evidence recovered at the Cochran home in the nearby Caspian Pit. Investigators found tools, cement blocks, and ashes containing fragments of jeans and a saw blade, further corroborating Kelly's involvement in Chris's death. The jury deliberated and returned with a verdict: guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Kelly Cochran was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Chris Reagan's family, the verdict was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but it could never bring back their loved one. As the trial concluded, new revelations emerged that deepened the case's horror. A neighbor came forward with a chilling story. Just days after Chris's disappearance, the Cochrans had invited him over for dinner. The meal had been unusually large, with an abundance of meat that seemed out of place. The neighbor confessed that, after learning about Chris's murder, he couldn't shake the horrifying thought that he might have unknowingly consumed human remains. Although no evidence confirmed this grisly theory, the mere possibility cast a dark shadow over the case. The trial wasn't the end of Kelly Cochran's disturbing revelations. Her brother, Colton Gahn, came forward with claims that suggested Kelly's involvement in additional murders. According to him, Kelly had hinted at 9 other victims, a claim that gained further weight when a phone recording surfaced of Kelly's mother confronting her. In the recording, Kelly's mother asked, "What the hell is wrong with you? Have you always been like this?" Kelly's chilling response, "I've always been like this," shocked even those familiar with her case. Despite these allegations, investigators found no concrete evidence to support claims of additional victims. Detective Jeremy Ogden, who had led much of the investigation, expressed frustration at the lingering mysteries. While Kelly was convicted of Chris Reagan's murder, the possibility of other crimes remained an unresolved question. For many, this uncertainty left an unsettling feeling that Kelly's darkest secrets may never be fully uncovered. As Kelly Cochran serves her life sentence, questions about her true nature and the extent of her crimes continue to haunt those who followed the case. Was she truly a victim of her husband's abuse, as she claimed? Or was she a manipulative killer who hid behind a facade of victimhood? Did she take other lives, as her brother and mother suggested? Or was Chris Reagan the only victim of her horrifying actions? For Chris Reagan's family and loved ones, the conviction offered some measure of justice, but the wounds of his loss will never fully heal. The case also serves as a grim reminder of the depths of human darkness and the complexities of uncovering the truth. What do you think about the chilling case of Kelly Cochran? Was she a victim or a calculated murderer? Could there be more victims, or is the truth we know the extent of her crimes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you have a true crime case you'd like us to cover, let us know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Criminal Abyss for more captivating true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant as we uncover the world's most chilling mysteries.